In that period, weapons were designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that was inflict a fatal wound. They were really vicious weapons. I mean, when you were out there for fighting for your life, there was none of this sort of rules. You were out to kill. Armour means that instead of making specifically suits of armour as such, and helmets, even though we've made a few, we've mainly dealt with the small arms, the side arms, the spears, the bows and the arrows, some crossbows which you can see behind, and other assorted small weapons.
Yeah, we've got a totally different sort of viewpoint on war, and just because of the way society's developed, the way weapons have developed, you know. You have a very, guns are very objective, you know. You can be quite some distance away from somebody with a gun. A sword, which is just basically a large steak knife, you don't have that objectivity, you know. If you want to be successful in a short sword fight, then you are truly 100% involved. It was an extremely brutal life, but no more brutal, say, than Mike Tyson's professional life in the ring, or any number of football players you want to name, you know. That's the modern day equivalent.
You read a lot at the beginning of the film, and then rather than copy, you put all your books to one side and use that knowledge to create something different. I started to look through all the books, and there's not much information. There's not much for this period that's been kept. So it did give us a little bit of a free hand. There's a few examples that have been found of the correct armour. I think there's only about 3 Gladiator helmets that are in existence, so we've just played with it a little bit. The weapons that were used in that period were a spear that you could throw initially. The spears were called pilums, and they were quite a good design because it was made of a soft iron with a hard tip. And when you threw this thing, it bent, meaning that the enemy couldn't throw it back to you. Once you'd thrown your spear, you'd advance with your shield to defend yourself, pushing the enemy back or bowling them over. And then you would draw your sword, which is a gladius. It's called gladius, and I think that's where the word gladiators come from, a sword, the user of the sword. And you would then use that as a thrusting weapon mainly, even though you could cut with it. But the shield, the spear and the sword were the main weapons for the soldier.
Now imagine, the Roman army is stretched out. Their lines are a mile long. You have 5 lines, roughly 1,000 soldiers each. They're not next to each other. There's maybe 6 feet between them, enough room for another man to come between. The second line is stepped over, so they cover that gap. That means you have no one behind you, so when you draw back your spear to throw, you don't poke someone in the eye. The third line is behind you, but it's 12 feet back. Now, the enemy charge, crashing down towards these 5 thin lines of Roman soldiers who look just like fences before an avalanche. No fence is going to stand up to an avalanche, or are they? Because as they come within 30 yards, a trumpet sounds, back go the arms, and 1,000 javelins hit the enemy. Down they go, rolling over each other, men falling over them, men with spears stuck in their shields, throwing them aside. It's a shambles. And then out come the swords.
As you see the scale of this axe, it was weighty and would have been made in either bronze or iron. It's quite a barbarian style weapon. The Romans were really good at whoever they fought. If they thought they were good, they were like the Japanese of their day. They would take that technology and weaponry and utilize it. We had our bows made for us by a proper bow maker. I think it was in the region of 16,000 arrows just for the flaming ones, and then we went through 10,000 arrows for firing. We did the arrows in 4 days. The special effects had special machines that could launch batteries of them into the air at any one time. But our guys firing them by the conventional way weren't doing that bad either.
Apart from recreating the sense of authentic Roman army equipment, catapults and ballistas and scorpions, machines that fire incredible volleys of arrows and huge terracotta bombs filled with flaming oil on their unfortunate and rather poorly equipped enemies, which is how the Romans did it. That was all equipment that didn't exist. Almost everything had to be made from scratch and be practical.
No! 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 Archers! Ignite! Ignite!
A lot of the things in the arena were tested out. The army would test ways of fighting within the gladiatorial arena that they then might use in battle elsewhere. There was lots of different types of weapons that were used. Most of the people that fought, the gladiators that fought, had a specific way of fighting, and the crowd would follow that man and the way he fought. It's like being in the blue team or the red team. You would come each week to watch your gladiator fight in a specific way, and he would be put up against opponents that would fight in different ways, but he had to fight in his kind of traditional way. Retiarius would use a trident to fight with. He would also have a net. We had a bit of a problem in trying to figure out how you threw this net as well as holding the trident, but we've found a way around it. And our little net's got crabs inserted in it, so the little crabs grab hold of you and cling onto you. These guys would mainly fight somebody called a mammalian, who resembled a fish. He'd have a fish on his helmet, and it was like, you know, the fisherman going out to catch the fish.